Hello, everyone. I'm Bijan,
I'm Amir.
and welcome to the Mustardcast, the podcast about the art of storytelling and how it's used across different mediums. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see our channel grow, and to click the notification bell that you're notified when we post. As usual, we'll start with media. We can see me. Amir.
I have been watching Bad Batch, of course. I've been watching the 2004 The Batman Show, which is like we talked about that last time. It's like my favorite Batman cartoon because like my God, it's so perfect. I read Taskmaster's 2010 and 2020 series, and I really want them to like make an animated series about that. It was so great. And they ended the 2020 series because the entire 2020 series was about Taskmaster got framed for killing Maria Hill. So Nick Fury Jr., which is the Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury, he knew the Taskmaster didn't do it, but he needed Taskmaster's help to find out what got her killed, because the only way to unlock the project she was working on is by mimicking or by like giving off like the body language of the three people that can unlock it. And of course, the only person who can mimic body language is Taskmaster. And meanwhile, Black Widow was hunting him for revenge the entire time. And then it turns out, of course, because Maria Hill is a terrible person, that she was just playing them, and she wasn't really dead. And all she was doing was playing with them. And so she needed Taskmaster to unlock the thing because she couldn't unlock it, and she couldn't get the three people that were like the keys to unlock it. So she made him unlock it. But because he's Taskmaster and he was sick and tired, he was just done with being played. He unlocked it, and then he's basically what it was like, have you ever heard of Project Thor?
No.
Okay, this is a real U.S. military thing. Like, you can look it up. It's basically like they have satellites orbiting, or at least this is a proposed project. I don't know if it's like actually been done or anything, but they have satellites up in the air, and basically what they would do is launch like large metal rods from orbit.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Like
yeah, so that's basically
like a railgun, like a railgun in space shooting rods down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
I've been in several movies as well. Like in Call of Duty Ghosts, they called it Odin, and there was another version called Loki, and it was one in G.I. Joe Retaliation. I think it was called Zeus.
I just know that it was at least proposed. Like, it was a real proposed project. I don't know if it actually got built or not, but it was basically like one of those, but like on a much larger scale. And so he was like, Maria Hill finally got him to unlock it, and he was like, blah, or he was like, whatever it was called, he was like, activate, and just walked out of the house while Maria Hill, Black Widow, and Nick Fury were like freaking out trying to get it to shut down and like turn it off and override it. And he was like, they're heroes, they'll save the day. I'm just sick and tired of being played by everybody. And he just left, and that was the end of the series. I was like, I like that. I really like that ending. I've also been in like a really big like Ronin mood. So I've been reading the 2005 New Avengers series, which is where the original Ronin, Echo, was first introduced, and then it's also where Clint Barton becomes Ronin, and I really love Ronin as a character, and it's just New Avengers is perfect. It's a perfect run right there.
Yeah. Speaking of Ronin, I was thinking yesterday, I was just randomly thinking about like, what if we had like a show? This is like kind of out of the reach of what we can do right now, but I was thinking, what if we had like a show on the channel that was about like, if we took certain things that happened in like the MCU and certain movies in the MCU or characters and make them better. So like take Nightwing, not Nightwing. Why did I say Nightwing? I meant Hawkeye, and make him better, or like make Iron Man 2 and 3 better. Even though I like Iron Man 2, but there's still things that I think could be better. And like, I was thinking about, it would be cool if AIM and MODOK was the villain of one of those Iron Man movies at some point.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what if we had a show where we talked about that, how that movie could have worked if AIM was the villain, or MODOK was the villain, and like design what could like a MCU version of those AIM soldiers with the bright yellow hazmat suits could look like.
I already have in my head, and actually I'd started to write it down somewhere. It's somewhere, of like a more comic accurate MCU. Like, I have like the entire thing planned out up until Infinity War. Like, it's there, it's in my head, and I'm very,
because I don't like particularly like the Hawkeye in MCU. I just think he has potential. You don't care for his potential. I think he has
I
potential.
don't. They ruined that from.
But I agree that you're right that he isn't as good as he is in the comics. He isn't even really that similar to the way he is in the comics. Like you said, he's more similar to his
Ultimate Universe
counterpart rather than his, main 616 universe counterpart.
Literally the most hated version of Hawkeye.
Black Widow is also a very underutilized character. And
I actually like her in the MCU. I like her in the comics too, but I actually really like her in the MCU. I don't understand why.
I don't dislike her. I just think that she's underutilized. They don't use her.
She's definitely underutilized in the MCU.
Like we talk about how there's no good reason why she didn't get a movie before. There really isn't. Like,
and it's like now that she's dead, they're like, oh yeah, like
yeah, because I'm not even talking about like in between Civil War and Infinity War, because that easily could have been a scheduling conflict, and that's why it didn't happen then. But even before that, there's no reason why she shouldn't have gotten a movie. There really isn't.
After the first Avengers movie, I think most people were like, she should have got a movie. Yeah, like way back in 2012.
Definitely after Winter Soldier, when you got to see a little about her, and you're like, okay, I'm interested in this character. Let me see more. I'm excited for Black Widow. That comes out in a few days.
It comes out in a few days. Wait a second.
Yeah. I'm not mistaken. I think I'm thinking about
Loki. That comes out in July, bro.
Loki comes out in a few days.
Loki comes out in 3 days.
Loki comes out in a few days. I was confusing the dates. Yeah.
You had me very excited all of a sudden.
By the time Black Widow comes out, I'll have my second vaccine and I'll be able to go and see it in theaters. We should go see it in theaters together. Maybe even me, you, and a couple other friends, so we can have more people on the podcast and just talk about Black Widow. That would be cool. And that would be the first time I go to the movie theater in over a year. I think the last movie I saw was Rise of Skywalker in theater.
Last one I saw was Tenet.
Yeah.
That's a good movie right there.
Got anything else?
I'm trying to think. I've been replaying the first Dishonored because my PlayStation controller is broken, like completely busted, so I have to get a new one. So in the meantime, I've been playing my old Xbox 360, and Dishonored is like the only game graphically that's not like terrible on my old shit.
I don't understand why they didn't make the DualSense work on the PS4, because it's like, one, you would only sell more controllers because the people who can't get a PS5 would still be able to get a PS5 controller. That way you get the people that are buying PS5s and the people that are buying PS5 controllers, so you make more money. So
right.
I don't understand why they didn't make the PS5 controller compatible with the PS4. Because with Xbox, all of the Xbox Series S controllers compatible with the Xbox Ones. And because my other controller was, one of my controller broke. So I was using my brother's Xbox One controller, which is sticky and messed up because he's a little kid. So I bought a new controller, and I bought the Series S controller, which is not that different, but it is different enough, and they are really good controllers, the Xbox controllers. So yeah, it's weird that the DualSense isn't compatible with the PS4. Otherwise, you would probably have gotten one already, and I also.
I would have been had one. Yeah, I would have stopped using my old PS4 controller the day I got it.
I don't need, of course the what is it called? The haptic feedback wouldn't work on the PS4, but I don't need that. Right. I need a controller that feels good and looks good.
I just need something I can play on. Like that's literally like the only thing. Like I'm not the type of person who like throws my controllers or smashes my controllers or anything. I've just had this controller for like over 5 years, and like finally the left stick just started like completely wonking out.
Yeah. So
I can hardly use. I try to use my PS4 to watch Disney Plus and to watch YouTube, and I can barely do that.
Yeah. I have two controllers. The older one, I got a new one because the older one, I think it's not the right, the left trigger, no, it was the right trigger. The right trigger would occasionally just not work, or it was like, it would be very sensitive, and it was like starting to like come loose. And one day it just wouldn't work. And I was mid playing, I think I was playing Miles Morales, and I'm mid swing and he just falls. And I'm like, what? And then I keep trying to swing. He just wouldn't swing. And I was just like, what's happening right now? And I ordered a new controller right then on the spot, because I was like, I need to be able to play my Miles Morales. But yeah. Anything else for?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, for me, watched Raya the Last Dragon the other day. We'll talk about that later. I watched The Mask of Zorro. Great movie. If you haven't seen The Mask of Zorro,
I love the Mask of Zorro.
okay. The only problem is I didn't notice this because it's been so long. Well, actually, I realized that all the memories I had of The Mask of Zorro were actually of the sequel, The Legend of Zorro, which isn't as good as The Mask of Zorro. So I never.
It's still good in my opinion. It's just not as
It's not
good.
bad. It's just I don't think it's as good as first one. But yeah. So I technically had never seen it because I kept thinking I saw it, but I didn't. I saw the second one. But yeah, Anthony Hopkins, a Welsh man, is playing this Spanish from Spain Spanish man, and it's the thing is he's really good in the role. That doesn't change the fact that it's whitewashing though.
I mean, Anthony Hopkins is good in anything that you put him
in. He's fantastic as the original Zorro. But why? And the thing is, if they ever made a new one, the perfect person to play the new Zorro is Antonio Banderas, because Antonio Banderas also technically was a whitewash of the version of Zorro he was playing, because he was playing a Mexican person, but he's Spanish. But the original Zorro that Anthony Hopkins was playing is Spanish. So if they were to make a new one, and it would be like a remake, he could play the original Zorro since he's much older now and he played Zorro before. He could play that Spanish version of Zorro. And then, you can get an actual Mexican actor to play the new Zorro. That would be pretty cool. I watched Kill Bill Volume 2. A couple of episodes ago, I talked about Volume 1. Finally watched Volume 2 again. Love those movies. They're really good. I like the first one better. It's just, there's a lot more action. And that animated sequence, it's just so good. And of course, the final fight. Though the second one is still really good. It's a little slower because I feel like there's less action every, like per minute. But yeah, it's still a good movie. Fruits Basket, still watching that. It gets like darker and darker the more I watch it. I finished watching Berlizzi play The Walking Dead. And man, so let me tell you, only 2 games have ever made me cry. The first game was The Last of Us at the beginning. If you know, you know. The second game was The Last of Us Part 2 at the end. Again, if you know, you know. The third game was another zombie game. And it was The Walking Dead, the final season, around the very end. I didn't expect it because I knew what was going to happen. I had watched somebody play it before, but it hit me this time far harder. Probably it was a lot because of Berlizzi was getting emotional, and then I started getting emotional. I was like, man, this is great. And also the gameplay of the final season of The Walking Dead makes me so sad that Telltale's gone, because it was so good. They made it more engaging. One of the biggest criticisms of these types of games are the what are they called? I don't know why I'm forgetting. The sequences where you have to like press a button. That happens in like God of War and like Uncharted and a whole bunch of other games. I forget what they're called. I really can't remember what they're called. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Repeat that last bit.
Like the action sequences where you have to like press a button in games like God of War.
QuickTime events.
QuickTime events. There we go. I couldn't remember the name of them. A big criticism of these types of games are that QuickTime events suck. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that it depends on how you use them, but sometimes they can be stupid. And for some people, they take away from like player choice games like The Last of Us. I mean, why did I say The Last of Us? The Walking Dead. Or like, Telltale's Batman or Wolf Among Us and things like that. And this one instead, it takes a more action game approach. It takes a more action game approach that I think could have been the future of the Batman games. Because what happens is there'll be a moment where a bunch of zombies are coming towards you and you're controlling the character in third person. They have a knife and you either stab the zombie and hit, or you hit them in the knee and they fall and then you stab them and hit. And I was thinking, what if you had a combination of Arkham combat with the story of a Telltale Walking Dead? So you still make decisions, but whenever you get to a section where you have to fight or do stealth, it's like an Arkham game. I feel like that's the direction that Telltale was going. And that would have been really cool to see. I know you love those Batman games.
I do. You just reminded me, I had just seen, I don't remember when, it was before, it was in between last podcast and this podcast, but it was Berlizzi playing Batman season 1, and it was when it was the episode where he fights Lady Arkham in the train station, and Catwoman is there, and he does the little like he puts the thing on the wall and he goes up, and then like he jumps down, like his cape spreads out so it looks like a bat, and Berlin is just screaming his lungs off. Oh my god. You just reminded me of that. I was like, yo, he hyped that scene up so much for me. And I was every time I see that scene, I'm like, I can't stop. It's not the same without hearing him scream.
Yeah, I've been watching him play Batman as well. I'm still in the first episode, but
he doesn't finish the playthrough. I'm gonna just let you know now. He doesn't finish the playthrough. Don't get your hopes up, because his playthrough was so good and he just never finishes it.
Yeah, he does that with a lot of playthroughs. But what else? I forgot about Lucifer. Lucifer, the show, came back.
Have you been watching it?
Part 2. I watched like the first 2 episodes. I think the second episode was a musical. Yeah, it's good so far. I haven't finished it yet. I just been watching other stuff. Berserk, been reading more Berserk, of course. Actually, I watched those animated movies. We'll get to that later. But yeah, I have volume 13, which is essentially the eclipse. That whole volume is the eclipse, which is like the best part of the Golden Age arc. And it's so good. I love reading that volume. It's volume 13. Last but not least, been playing Resident Evil Village more. I've been I'm New Game Plus. You get points from doing certain things within the game, and you can use those points to buy things like either weapons that weren't available already, or you could, if you fully upgrade a weapon, it's then unlocked and you can purchase unlimited ammo on that weapon. So far, I only have unlimited ammo on the very first pistol. So I'm working my way up, and I'm trying to upgrade the 1911 so I can get unlimited ammo on the 1911. And you could also, the moment you go to the Duke, whichever weapon you purchase is already there. So at the beginning of the game, you could have a machine gun and just mow down werewolves, or you could have the Lenny with unlimited ammo, or 1911 unlimited ammo. I wish that guns like the DLC gun, like the Samurai Edge, were upgradable. And I think it's messed up that they aren't, because they're cool, but weak. Once you start upgrading other weapons or you get new weapons, you're like, this gun sucks. What do I need this gun for? But yeah, that's all I have when it comes to media I'm consuming. It's Pride Month, every Pride Month. People who don't know, I'm pansexual. Every Pride Month to everyone. But yeah, going into animation. First things first, Issa Rae is going to be voicing Spider-Woman and Spider-Man Spider-Verse 2. As you can assume, the racist jumped out of the woodworks.
I have purposely been avoiding the comments. I've purposely been avoiding
the thing is, I kind of get energy from it. Watching people be upset over the dumbest things gives me energy sometimes.
I wish I had that mindset, because every time I see someone get upset over it, I get drained so quickly.
The things that drain me is like conversations about people. Like, I always say, I don't believe in console wars, but I believe in console debates. We could have a civil conversation about which is better, but you don't have to get disrespectful and be an asshole about it like a lot of people do. Those are the comments that I avoid, because I know I'm always going to come across something stupid and I just don't feel like dealing with it. And I don't want to see it because it's just going to make me upset, because people are idiots.
Honestly, the console debates, I'm fine with those. Those give me energy. It's the like racist, like homophobic comments, and those are what get me.
Those are what ones that don't. It's funny because those are the ones that don't get me and that I see, and I'm like, that's you can be.
That's the exact opposite.
For me, I'm like, you can be angry because it's happening anyway. That's why I like it, because they can be angry all they want. This is still happening, and they're not going to stop it. And naturally, of course, a lot of people are saying that it's a double standard, that, oh, wow, white people can't voice Black characters, but a Black person can voice a white character. One, I guarantee you they're probably going to make Spider-Woman Black. And then, of course, the people get mad at that. It's like, okay, so now you're going to make her Black. Is her race important to her character? You could tell me more than I know. I don't think it is.
Um, not it depends on the story, but typically no. I know for a fact that uh especially in New Avengers, there's a little arc about the fact that Hydra chose her as a Nazi because of the whole like race thing. So like kind of, but at
Yeah,
the
I
same
don't.
time, it really depends on the story.
I'm pretty sure that's not something they'll be going into in Spider-Verse. But
Yeah, I was gonna say unless it's like her own personal movie, I don't think they'll be going into it. But
yeah, and even if she is voicing a white person, it doesn't matter. And the reason it's a problem one way and the other for people who don't understand, who honestly just don't understand, it's because when a white person is voicing a black character, they're taking away a role from a minority, a minority not just in America but in the industry that white people already rule. So when they're already voicing every character, including races that they aren't, they're taking roles away from the minorities who could be getting work. So instead of a black person voicing a black character, a white person is voicing that black character. Therefore, that black person doesn't have a job to do because they got pushed out of that role because someone of a different race took that. But opposed to if a black person takes a white person role, there's still a bunch of other roles for that white person to play because they get the opportunities to play different races as well as their own. That's the problem. But anyway, I'm excited for that movie. I started like reading up on Silk because I always just thought Silk looked cool. So I was like, I want to learn more about Silk. And I realized Silk is going to be weird to bring in. And you know why.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but he's a bit of
who
a
don't know.
interesting character.
Silk essentially got bit by the same spider as Peter. When he hit it, it didn't die. It went and bit someone else, and then it died. But she was imprisoned by some rich person for like years, and then Peter broke her out. But he discovered upon breaking her out is that they have this like primal attraction to each other, to where whenever they're around each other, they just want to sleep with each other, and it's really weird. That would have to be removed if they were going to bring her into Spider-Verse and Peter was going to be there. Honestly, it's a really weird part of her character. But outside of that, she's kind of just not really used much. And I'd love to see her used more. That part of her character is funny, but not really necessary.
She had a series. She had a solo series for a while.
I was interested in it, but I didn't like the art style, and that was more than enough to turn me away. If I don't like an art style, I can't read it.
Honestly, I can't blame you. I'd stopped reading the 2014 Winter Soldier series just because I couldn't tell what was happening.
Yeah.
Like, I was real interested. I just couldn't tell what was going on. Like, the art style was egregious. Like,
yeah. So we were going to talk about Castlevania, but our guest couldn't make it. So that'll be next week. But for now, first we'll talk about Raya, then we'll get into the Berserk animated movies. So Raya and the Last Dragon. It was a solid film. The one bad thing I have to say about it is that it was rushed a bit, and because of that, a lot of the rumors, characters didn't have room to breathe, and because of that, it was hard for me to truly care about them and the decisions they were making, because I felt like I didn't have enough time to get to know any of them. I felt like they just kept adding characters to the ensemble and us not really truly getting to know the characters. And it was really weird. Of course, the animation's beautiful. This is some of the best water I've seen in animated series, animated movie or series, animated anything. Mostly because it's like the most important element of the entire story is water. So if the water doesn't look good in this movie, that story hinges on water, then you messed up. But it was the story they were trying to tell was interesting. I just think it didn't go as far as they wanted it to because of time constrictions. And I give them leeway because it's animation. Animation takes a long time, so I can understand why it was rushed. But it was still, that does change the fact that it was rushed, and because of that, the story's hurt a bit. I still give it a solid 8 though. I don't think it's bad. I still think it's fun. I'd watch it again.
I've watched it twice now because yesterday I had a movie day with some friends, and that was the first movie that we watched. And I'm very glad that I was not the only person because the first thing that my friend turned to me and said was, I feel like I missed a good 3/4 of this movie. And I'm like, yeah, the movie's pacing was
Awful.
atrocious. Like it was
Not good pacing.
I really did like by the time I got to the end of the movie the first time, I was like, did I fall asleep and not notice? Like what did I miss? Because I feel like I missed large portions of this movie. The movie's not terrible. I give it like a 6.5, but the pacing drags it down that much. I would honestly, I would like a TV show or for this movie. I really do like the world that it's set in. I love the cultures that it's based off of. I saw Raya when she was doing a screama, and I saw the pose when she was fighting her father in the beginning. I saw the stance, and I was like, "That's a screama." Yes, I love it. And oh my god, because I love Eskrima, I love Filipino culture, I love like all of it, and it was amazing, and it was awesome that they were pulling from these cultures. And I was really excited because I was like, oh, we're gonna have a real martial arts Disney movie. Like I was so excited, and then I really thought I missed a solid hour and a half of the movie because it was like that. I don't know
Yeah.
what
There
happened in
also
that
there also
writer's room.
wasn't nearly as much fighting as I thought there would be.
That's another thing. I'm glad I'm not the only one said it either because I was like in my head I was like it's still a Disney movie. Like I should be a little, I should be a little lenient on that. But it's really the way they advertised it. You would have expected a lot more fighting.
I was about to say, yeah, but then you got The Incredibles, which is obviously meant to be an action animated movie, and there's enough action in it to, qualify it as that action movie. Whereas Raya is also an action animated movie, but I don't feel like has enough action.
Exactly.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was beautifully animated. Easily the most beautifully animated Disney movie out. Like the level, the animation quality, they stepped that up like large jump. Like that was amazing.
We talked about it before, talking about how we don't hope that Disney takes the fact that because of the pandemic and they couldn't release it in theaters, well, they couldn't roll it out in theaters the way they wanted to. That they don't take this as an excuse that people don't like these diverse movies. The same thing with Soul, um, because I love that they're exploring different cultures, and I want them to continue to do that. And I don't want them to take the fact simply because something like Soul was on Disney Plus because of the pandemic, or this was released on Disney Plus and in theaters at the same time because of the pandemic. And if they don't do as well as they, expected them to do because of that, I hope they don't decide to then not, make these diverse movies.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I would love a TV show for this like
I
world. Like
personally,
this world was amazing. I
um,
just need it to be paced a whole lot better.
I think that I could see this having a sequel and hopefully diving deeper into some of the other characters. Because
Not just the characters either, because the world and like like some of these concepts were made like really cool. Like the exploding like colorful bugs. That was really awesome. I was really a fan of
I feel
that.
like
And I was like,
the powers of the dragons were a little bit off and weird. And it wasn't really at first they all seemed like they all had unique powers. But then I was feeling like, okay, I feel like Sisu, spoiler alert, because now I'm talking about specifics. I felt like Sisu was specifically the dragon of water. And that's why, and she just didn't understood. It seemed like they were going that direction. Was I the only person who felt that way? Where it was like she was
I
more
think you were. I'm not gonna lie, because I didn't think about that.
because it seemed like she was more powerful than she thought because it felt like she could just straight up control water, but she didn't know, and she thought that she was only a strong swimmer, but in reality, she was actually like a water god dragon, because she was a strong swimmer, and then when she got the rain, she was running on rain, and I was like, okay, maybe she's stronger than she thinks she is, um, and then it turns out, you know, all of the dragons can run on water like that when it rains, and like pretty much every dragon is essentially a rain water dragon. So now I'm like, okay, the dragons aren't really unique anymore, and they all are kind of the same. So I wonder what they're gonna do if they make a sequel. I feel like they might. What they're gonna go, how they're gonna go with that, because I felt like the dragons were gonna be, unique, every single one of them. One, there were a lot more dragons than I thought there would be, because in the like little like sections where they're describing what happened before, I was like, okay, there's like 10 dragons or something like that. But then when I forget her name, but the like girl that was a villain for the like majority of the movie, when she went through that field that was full of dragons, I was like, oh, there's way more dragons than I thought there were. And I think that is why they weren't all as unique as they probably were going to be. But yeah, I felt like the dragons are going to be more unique, individual, I should say, when they weren't. They all kind of had the same power. Maybe later on we'll find out that they actually are different. But like you said, a show could be cool. Maybe, yeah. I feel
Even like
show,
Kung Fu Panda and Legends of Awesomeness, like how they made that TV show.
yeah, I feel like a show could be cool. Learn more about them. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say about it. It was a good movie. I feel like I don't understand your scoring system, because a 6 to me feels low. So here's my scoring system. I actually recently like put kind of like words to go with my scoring system. Essentially, it's like this. 10, I don't give anything a 10. But if for some reason I was going to, it's obviously like a masterpiece. And I do have points, nothing in between that. I don't do no 0.7, 0.8, 0.9. I don't do that. I do have points, because anything in between that is ridiculous.
Yeah, I do the same. I don't do like, yeah.
Yeah, so 9 is amazing, nearly perfect. 8 is great, it's good, watch it. 7 is good. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. It's good, it's worth watching. 6 is okay. I couldn't really recommend it. But if you want to watch it, you'll have a little fun. 5 is straight up mid. It's mediocre as hell. It's very regular. It's like the most recent Mortal Kombat movie. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I don't think it's good either. I think it's very, like, I use the word mediocre a lot when talking about that movie, because I felt like that's what it is, and that we're settling for something that's just mediocre. And anything below 5, don't watch it. I'm not going to recommend it. It's horrible. Like, I don't even give anything below a 5, because I don't really watch movies. There's rarely been a movie I've seen that's that bad that I would give it something below a 5. But that's
for me,
because yours is like
my scaling system. I feel like that scaling system is more influenced off of like the American education system. Mine is not so much, because like a 10 in the American education system is like, oh yeah, that's like an A, but like a 5 is like you failed. A 5 and below is literally an F. Like that's not how I scale mine.
For me, that's not
like,
mine isn't an like a 5 is a F. For me, a 5 is it's regular. It's nothing special. And 6 is it's nothing special. 5 is it just exists. I feel nothing about it, because it just isn't anything it's not good. It's not the worst thing, but it's not good. And 6 is
my rating system. 1 through 3 is like terrible movie, never watch this. 4 to 5 is about it's got some redeeming qualities, but still not a good film. 5 to 6 is it's okay. It's not great. It's not, I don't even know if I would call it good, but it's not just okay, and it's like in between that. 7 to 8 is like, this is a good movie. It's great. Not even it's great, but it's a good movie. 9 is it's a great movie. 10 is it's a masterpiece. I don't think I've ever given a movie a solid 10. Like 10 is a flawless movie. I would give Tenet and the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie a 9.5, if that gives you a reference.
The highest I've given anything is like a 9.5. I rarely give out 10s. I don't think anything.
I don't give out 10s, because like both movies still have their faults, but like they're very small faults, like nitpicky faults.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever hit like a 10 yet. Maybe Spider-Verse the first time I saw it, but
I've watched that movie so many times.
I know every line to that movie, like from start to finish.
Like, what is it? I don't know if it was the same day or the same weekend. I watched it twice. I know it was some movie I watched twice in the same day. It might have been Aquaman. I don't remember what it was. It was some movie that I watched twice in the same day. I went and watched it by myself and then went and watched it with my girlfriend. It was weird. But yeah. So moving on to the next animated film, the Berserk animated movies, the Golden Age arc movies. I watched all three of them, and I have very mixed feelings about them. You know, speaking of like
these are the movies I was talking about that I thought you meant when you were talking about the real Berserk, by the way. I like the new Berserk. That's what I thought you were talking about.
Yeah. So speaking of scaling, so if I had to scale them all together, they would be a 6 probably. The 6 is, it's okay. It's whatever. But individually, I would say the first one is a 6. The second one is a 7, maybe 8. The last one is a 6.5 potentially. So I would say the second one is probably like 7.5, and the first one is a solid just 6. The reason I say that is because the first one, I was like, it was okay. Like that's what the 6 is for me. 6 is okay. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. The 3D animation feels so unnecessary all the time in that movie. Like when it comes to a bunch of soldiers fighting in the background, make those 3D. Of course, it's a bunch of soldiers. You don't want to have to hand animate all of those. It makes sense. But for the people in the foreground fighting,
better than me. I would have just done stick figures.
But the people in the foreground fighting, I feel like should have been the ones that were 2D animated, while the background fighters were 3D animated. Or like soldiers that don't matter, those could be 3D animated. Another thing about the animation is that there were times where characters weren't moving and they were 3D models. And I was like, why don't you just, they're literally not moving. Now, I'm not trying to make it seem like animation is easy by any means. And I'm pretty sure the reason this movie is in CG is because it had tons of constraints. And that's why they did things in CG to make up for those constraints. But, let's pretend like they could have had more money. They could have had more time. I felt like the characters that were main characters that were standing completely still and right up in front of the screen, still being 3D models, is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Because it's like, bro, they're literally not moving. You don't need them to be 3D model. Draw that, bro. And they also cut out a lot because it's a movie instead of a show. I feel like the first movie and the second movie needed an extra 30 minutes at least. Because there was like content that had guts, spoiler alert, getting to know the Band of the Hawk that was completely cut. So he kind of just has this random, like there's a time skip, but even in between that, they still show him getting to know them. So it feels like he just randomly is like good friends with them. And you also just don't get to learn about them. You don't really get to learn and build a relationship with the Band of the Hawk. So in the last movie, when again, spoiler alert, the eclipse happens and they all die, it's like, it's messed up, but you didn't really feel connected to them. Also, whenever they do a flashback to a very, very, very crucial part of a character's backstory, it's blurry and the camera is doing this the whole time. I lied to you not. The camera shakes and it's blurry the entire time. It's really weird. Like these are important backstories to these characters. And the camera just shakes and it's blurry and it's clearly being animated. And they just decided to shake the camera. It's weird. That's for the first movie. Again, okay. Now the reason the second movie is rated the highest is because like the last 30 minutes of that movie is so good. The animation quality like jumps so high up. They essentially do mostly 2D. And it's let me just make it doubly clear. At this point, I'm spoiling things. It's a scene where Griffith is having sex with the princess. And he Guts had just left. Actually, before that happened, the animation was great. When he was fighting Guts, when Guts was trying to leave, and he was like, if you're gonna leave, the same rules apply as the first time. You have to beat me in a fight. And Guts was like, bet. And the animation in that very short fight was great. The fight goes goes by very quickly. It's just a simple, they both swing their sword. He tries to parry Guts's blade. Guts is too big and strong, and he just breaks the sword. and Gut stops the blade right before it cuts him in half, and then Griffith falls to his knees and he's like, "Damn, I lost." And that whole scene was animated beautifully. And I'm watching, I was like, why wasn't this the whole movie? Why wasn't this 30 minutes the entirety of the movie? Because it was so good. That's why that one's rated so much higher. The last movie, when it came to the eclipse, the coloration was really weird until like the demons really started to come out and kill people. Then it turned red, because at first it was kind of like this grayish, bluish purple, which looked really dull. And then it turned like this reddish purple. And I was like, okay, now it's colored properly. It was really weird. That was a weird choice. Also, because immediately after watching that third movie, I went and read the volume to see like, okay, how does this compare? Because I was like, I swear that the God Hand did not talk as much as they did, because they kept talking in this movie. And I was like, why is the God Hand talking so much? They're so much less intimidating when they continuously talk and move around and do weird stuff. I'm like, shut up, stop speaking. Just sit there menacingly in the background looking creepy like you did in the manga and in the older show. Because they're taking away from their intimidation factor when one of them was being kind of a little bit too goofy. He already looked goofy. But having him move around so much was just weird. So yeah, that's how I feel about those movies. I feel like 3D animation, in some cases, was just weird. We've talked about 3D animation before. I like 3D animation when it's done really well, like Dorohedoro, Beastars, even Demon Slayer. They use 3D animation specifically for the background. I'm not saying they should do that for Berserk, because Berserk having these beautifully painted and drawn backgrounds is like a part of just its allure. So I'm glad they actually did that in this movie. But when it comes to CG characters, the idea behind it is that you want to try and mimic 2D animation. So you turn down the frame rate to like 12 frames per second. They animate in twos. And you try to make them look like they're cell shaded and things like that. But these models just weren't good. So when you sat them next to an actual 2D person, it was so clear that they were 3D. And it was weird. And that's why I say when they zoomed in on characters and the characters were barely moving, it should have been 2D. Just to, wrap this up. Essentially, at the end of the day, we still don't really have nothing's perfect. So, at least a really good Berserk anime adaptation. Because I love the 97 anime, but it's honestly dated. It's a little old. Even though it came out a year after Cowboy Bebop. Cowboy Bebop's animation is far better than the 97 Berserks. There are just some cases where the animation isn't as fluid as it should be. And I feel like if, that same studio did it today, they could probably do it much better. And the 26 anime is just straight up not good. I would not recommend it to anyone. It also cuts an entire arc. An entire arc, my dude. It's weird. And this one right here, the only reason I would recommend this one is because the 97 anime cannot be found on streaming services. Maybe illegally, I would suggest that, but it's
completely legal streaming services.
Cannot be found on any streaming service. But I think you could get it on DVD if you really want to watch it. That's the only reason I would suggest these movies, because you literally can't find anyone else. If you like reading, I would just say read it, because that's the best way to consume the story, only because there isn't a really good anime out yet. That's all I have to say about that. You say you saw them. You say you liked them.
I mean, the movies weren't bad. That's why I was confused when you were talking like mad smack about Berserk, like the new stuff, and I was like, I thought you were talking about the movies. You were talking about the show. I didn't even know the show existed, like the new show. I didn't know the new show existed. I was like, what? Like, I don't see what you're talking about. And like now, I was like, okay, we're not talking about the same thing. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I said, 6 overall. 6.
I can agree with that.
Going on TV and film. Apparently J.J. Abrams is working on a Portal movie.
Did you hear that?
I only heard about it like a week ago.
That's been a thing for years.
And I didn't know. I was like, all right, well, that's cool. I don't really dislike anything he's made, honestly. I like the first Star Wars movie that he made. It went downhill after that, but the first one he made.
I even like Rise of Skywalker. I know I'm in the minority when I say that, but I like Rise of Skywalker. I haven't seen any of his Star Trek movies. I think he made Star Trek.
I think 2 of them.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of those.
I don't really feel much either way about them. I didn't watch the original ones, so I can't really compare them. I guess I could just only say that they were okay from only seeing the movies and not watching a show. But yeah, that's interesting. Portal is it's a video game series that I don't really care too much about to really care whether this movie is bad or good. I'll probably definitely watch it though, just to check it out. It sounds like it'll be interesting. Disney Plus is planning on making an Okoye spin-off show, which is interesting. I actually do want to learn more about the Dermalogic. That sounds fun, just to learn more about the Dermalogic in general, and like what the process is to like become a Dermalogic, because this is supposed to take place in like when she's like becoming one, like when she's younger. So that sounds fun. Actually, I'm interested in that. I want to learn more about the Dermalogic. Because the moment they popped up in The Winter Soldier, they were as cool as they always are. You feel any way about that?
I don't really think that an Okoye show, out of everything they could do, is really necessary. I mean, I'd be cool if they did a Agents of Wakanda. I don't know if you read Agents of Wakanda, but it's basically like I don't remember if it was. It's been a long time since I read Agents of Wakanda. I was back in high school when I read that. It's recent. It was something going on with the Avengers where basically like they couldn't be Avengers for some reason. So Black Panther, Okoye, Wasp, I think Conan the Barbarian, I'm pretty sure. And then like 2 other people, they wound up becoming like a Wakandan funded like Avengers team, and it was pretty good. From like the little bit that I read of it, it was pretty good. I wouldn't mind if they did like an Agents of Wakanda show.
Wait,
but like an Okoye show just seems.
I need you to explain why Conan was a part.
I don't remember. It's been years, but Conan was in it. I remember it was either Conan. It was some type of like barbarian character. There's a lot of Marvel has like 5 different barbarian characters, and I don't know why they have so many. But it was one of them. I want to say it was Conan. I'm pretty sure it was Conan.
That's weird.
I mean, Conan's been in a lot of Marvel stuff.
So, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, the second Shazam movie. They've started filming.
Not the Shaquille O'Neal Shazam.
No, not the Shaquille O'Neal Shazam.
That's disappointing.
It'd be funny if he made a cameo though.
That would be funny.
They showed his costume. How do you feel about it? Of course, I'm gonna put a picture of it on screen.
I liked the original Shazam costume.
I did too.
I did. I really liked the Shazam costume. From the first movie. Apparently now a bunch of people are coming out saying, "Oh, the Shazam costume wasn't that good. I'm glad we're finally seeing the Shazam costume." No, the Shazam costume was dope. I don't know what y'all are talking about. Like,
just because they have a newer costume doesn't mean the old one's bad all of a sudden. Like,
right. I'm not gonna lie. I like the older costume. I like the older costume better.
I also like the older costume better. What I like about the newer costume actually is my favorite, the lightning bolt. I actually like the lightning bolt.
I was gonna talk about that. That's what I was gonna talk about. If there was some things I wish, it's that I wish that the 2 like circlet whatever things were bigger. And the lightning bolt was way bigger. Like take the lightning bolt from the first Shazam costume and make it bigger, and it would have been perfect. Or what they could have done is they could have done it like how his original suit was in the comics, where like it came down from the shoulder and went across like that. I want that. Yeah. That is my perfect.
Yeah, I like the lightning bolt in the new costume. In terms of new costume, they're clearly making it more in line with Black Adam, so that when you find them, their costumes kind of match. He has a cape, even though in the like screenshots that we've seen, he didn't, like the pictures we've seen, he didn't have a cape, because in the
test footage he has a cape.
Yeah, he has a cape. Yeah. I wonder if the cape will still have a hood, because you couldn't really tell based on that. But yeah, I like the way it looks. He had more time. Zachary Levi had more time to actually get in shape, so his body doesn't look. It's still padded, but it doesn't look as padded as the older costume was because his muscles are actually bigger and they don't have to pad him as much because he's actually in more shape to look at least a little bit closer to someone who could fight The Rock. Even though he'll never be as big as The Rock, but he already is a pretty tall guy. So I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, Zachary Levi. He even has his own protein supplement company.
Yeah, he got big. So yeah, he's more buff. He looks like a person that can fight The Rock now almost. So yeah, I like it. Going on to Sony's Spider-Verse, Aaron Taylor Johnson, aka Quicksilver, aka Kick-Ass, is going to be playing Kraven the Hunter in Sony's Kraven the Hunter. I have I don't really have any feelings about this.
I don't care one way or another about it. I just think it's funny that they were talking about they were gonna make a Kraven movie, and the Kraven movie and the Venom movie were gonna kick off this Sony villain verse. Yeah. And my question that I've never voiced, but I'm gonna voice it here because I finally have the opportunity to, is just why? Why are you making a universe surrounded by villains that have like one or two solo stories?
It's really weird. Here's the thing. I think that it's weird because I could see this easily happening with Batman's villains, but not Spider-Man's. And even then,
not even all of Batman's villains either. Like it's
a couple. Like a lot of Batman villains could get a solo movie and be fine, but Spider-Man villains without Spider-Man is weird. A lot of them are really weird without Spider-Man. Like Venom existing without Spider-Man in general is just super weird. I don't understand why they made that choice.
Yeah, personally, I'm not a big Venom fan. I couldn't care one way or another about Venom personally, but it's like Kraven literally does not work as a hero. Kraven's only story as like an anti-hero or a protagonist was Kraven's Last Hunt, and he died at the end. So I don't really know what the idea is.
Kraven having a solo movie is really weird. Morbius is still happening. I'm interested in Morbius. It looks cool.
Morbius actually has an entire solo series way back when.
I need to watch that trailer again because it's been a while since I've seen the trailer.
I'm excited for Morbius. I'm not excited for Kraven.
I'm interested. I won't say I'm excited, but I'm interested.
I'm excited for more. I liked. He had more than just one. He had multiple comic book series. Like I can understand certain Spider-Man villains having stuff. Doc Ock has a lot of solo stories. Morbius has a lot of solo stories. Venom has a lot of solo stories. But when you look at characters where their entire dependency as a character relies on the existence of a hero, then the question just becomes, what's the point? Like, why? Yeah. What are you gonna? This is like doomed from the start. I don't really. Maybe Kraven could surprise me and be like the best comic book movie ever, but I highly doubt that.
So I watched Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's zombie movie on Netflix.
I keep meaning to watch it.
Yeah, it's I give it a 7. It was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We're gonna keep talking about ratings now. I'm gonna keep giving numbers to things. It was good. I enjoyed it. But what I really want to talk about is the special effects specifically because they use these suits for motion capture called Exons suits. So essentially I didn't know that this was a thing for them to do motion capture without any cameras whatsoever. So none of those dots and stuff that people always use. And instead it's kind of like built into the suit. And there's like a I don't even know how to describe it, like a block in the suit that's recording all of the data. And then you take that block out of the suit and you plug that into your computer and you have the data of the motion capture. And I just thought that was just really cool. Specifically, after watching the movie, I was more interested in how the movie was made than the movie itself. Not to say I didn't like the movie. Like I said, I thought it was okay. But I was way more interested in how the movie was made because it felt random. It felt like it came out of nowhere because I hadn't really heard much about it. And then randomly, a couple months ago, they started advertising it a lot. And I felt like it was really weird. So I wanted to check it out. And coincidentally, like as soon as the movie ended, they in Netflix, they suggest another movie to watch. They have a whole 30-minute behind the scenes documentary about the making of this movie. And like we talked about before, Zack Snyder isn't the worst. Like, he's good, especially at cinematography. He knows how to.
Oh, he's a great cinematographer.
He knows how to make a shot
when he's not going completely dark. He's a great cinematographer.
He knows how to make a shot look really good. That's why I was most interested in seeing him do this. And this behind the scenes, his writing isn't always the best. That's where, he needs to, occasionally step back, But that's all I have to say about it. If you see it, we'll talk about it again. But going on to video games. First things first, all I have to say is, of course, why did anybody expect anything less? Of course, God of War got delayed. It was clear it was going to get delayed. Like, it was so obvious that game was going to get delayed. It's only been 3 years since the first one came out.
Has it really? I haven't even finished the first one.
It came out 2018.
I haven't even finished the first one.
Like, it came out March 2018. It's only been 3 years since the game came out. So unless it was going to be like a Miles Morales type game, this was not coming out this year. Like, the moment they said it was coming out this year, we talked about it on the podcast. I said, no, it's not. I said, no, it's not. This game is going to be too big to come out this year. And of course, it got delayed. What else was I going to say? I forgot. It was something else about God of War. Oh, it's also going to be on both PS4 and PS5. I'm happy because I probably won't have a PS5 when it comes out. Who knows? Because of the availability of the console, and who knows how much money I'll have at the time. So I'm glad it's going to be on PS4. That way I can still play it, even if my console sounds like it's going to explode while I play it. That's all we have to say about that, because there isn't much other news about it. Dying Light 2.
Yes.
After watching, it's funny because after watching The Army of the Dead, I kept thinking about zombie games. And then coincidentally, like the next day or maybe the same day, a bunch of Dying Light news came out. And they showed some gameplay, and it looks so good. I never cared for the first game, and I heard that the controls were a bit difficult because it had to combine parkour and combat. And I was like, it was just never something that interested me. But this one looks so good.
I'm interested, and I'm very excited for the second one. The first one, I've only ever watched gameplays of it. I never wound up getting around to getting it, but the first one looked good, and I liked what I saw in the gameplay. I'm very excited for the second one, especially and I don't know if this is ever going to come true, because I feel like this happens to almost every open world game now, where they give you the promise that every action that you take is going to change the world drastically. And so far, that has not happened in a single game that I've ever played where they promise that. The closest things, I'm not gonna lie, the closest thing is maybe Dishonored, where like the more you kill, the harder it becomes, and that's about it. But like, I've yet to see an actual genuine like, oh, if you choose the wrong thing, you're gonna change the entire world. Like,
also that part in Dishonored 2 and the crack in the slab, when if you go back in time and kill the dude, and like it changes something in the future, but if you just knock them out, if you just knock them out.
Dishonored is just amazing. I feel like we bring that up as just like a prime example of
I cannot wait for that
model gameplay, just because Dishonored is amazing. Like, oh, it's perfect. But like, I feel like I get promised that every time, and every time I fall for it because I want a game that's like that. I fall for it every time, hook, line, and sinker, and then I come out of it like, yeah, they didn't deliver on that. And for some reason, I'm always surprised that they didn't deliver to me on that. But I'm going in again with my mindset like, oh, maybe it'll be different this time.
The way they talk about it is that there are different factions that you can align yourself with, and this is usually how the story always goes when they talk about this stuff. And that depending on which faction you side with, it changes the way the world works. I don't know. Games have evolved a lot, and who knows? Maybe it's true. And they showed an example of like this one building going from looking one way to looking completely different with a bunch of flags on it from one side that you help assume get this control. That's really cool. What really pulls me in is the parkour and the zombies and how the zombies work at night. As soon as the sun goes down, they come out. More zombies come out, and more powerful zombies come out. And some of them run. So just because you can free run doesn't mean that they're not going to catch you. And also the combat in terms of just using melee weapons just looks fun. I feel like something that a missed opportunity for Resident Evil games are melee weapons, because in the mercenaries mode of Resident Evil 8, which is really fun. I wish it was multiplayer, but it's not. I hope that they make some type of multiplayer DLC at some point for Resident Evil 8, because it really, the mercenary modes really leaves it open for multiplayer. They like, you can get upgrades like perks that change certain things. Like you either move faster or you could do more damage with a knife. You can get to the point to where you could just slice them up with a knife and kill them. And I was like, imagine if they gave you melee weapons that you could unlock in the game. Like the knife is the weakest one, and then you get like a bat, and then you get like a katana or something like that. You know what I mean? And then you can start using a katana as a melee weapon like they do in like weapons, the makeshift weapons in Dying Light and Dying Light 2. I feel like that's a missed opportunity that Resident Evil hasn't done, especially since it's in first person now. But it looks cool. It looks cool. You know, it comes out this year, 2021, December 7th. Another game coming out this year, around the same time, October 7th, coincidentally. Far Cry 6.
Yes.
It looks really good.
I'm not gonna lie, I've been a fan of the Far Cry series, but I've been like one of the like stereotypical Assassin's Creed fans where I'm like, oh, it's never gonna be as good as it used to. This is going to be the first Far Cry game I buy since Blood Dragon. I don't know if you've ever played Blood Dragon.
The first one I played was 3. I never finished it.
Blood Dragon was a DLC for 3.
Yeah, I know. I played all of 4. That was the real like first full Far Cry experience I got, and I loved it. And then when 5 came along, it didn't really pull me in, because for me the environment just didn't interest me, because I was like, it's just in like Montana, America. It's like, bro, I live in America. I don't want to go. Yeah. If it took place in Baltimore, though, I probably would have played it. But
that's the thing, though. That's one of the things that pulls me in about this. It takes place in a city, or well, a city is one of the areas.
Yeah, I would say it takes place on an island that's meant to be like Cuba. And there are several cities and little villages and towns like spread out across the island. And because of how big we know Ubisoft maps have gotten over the years, you know this map is going to be huge. And you know they're going to be city areas.
Someone leaked the entire map, or like the size of the entire map.
I'm looking up right now.
Okay. I don't know if it's probably online. I saw it on a YouTube video though. Like I can send it to you on the YouTube video if you can't find it. It's pretty huge. It's pretty huge.
I see something. It looks like this. Yeah, it looks like there's a city on the coast, and there's another city.
It's gonna be big.
And it looks like there's like at least 4 city areas. Yeah, I'm excited for this game. Especially what really interests me is how they're taking the weapons and making them more makeshift, kind of like Dead Rising. Mm-hmm. In Dead Rising, you make like there's a bunch of makeshift weapons in there. It seems like they're going that route here too, and it looks really cool. And you know, as kind of cookie cutter Ubisoft games get, every now and again, you just need yourself a good Ubisoft game in your life.
Oh yeah,
as Ubisoft
games are like, I feel like they're like the stereotypical video games. Like you have like your first person shooters with Rainbow and Far Cry that don't really do anything super special anymore, because now it's like the industry standard. But like, you want to go back and play them every once in a while. Like sometimes you just need like that it's like a palate cleanser, you know?
There's this article that makes fun of Ubisoft games. I'm gonna read it. It's called Ubisoft Game, the review. It's hilarious. Let me look at how long it is. It's not too long. I could read all of it. Okay. So here's the article. It's by Point and Clickbait. It was from June 4, 2014 by Tim Caldwell. And it's like a parody article. It says, okay, by now we've all heard of Ubisoft Game. And if you haven't, then you've been living under a rock. Ubisoft Game is the latest in a long line of titles from Ubisoft. And with a bigger budget and even than ever before, no less than 75 of Ubisoft's 193 global studios working on it. They do have a lot of studios, and they do make a lot. There's no doubt that this year's Ubisoft Game is going to be the big one. You can play Ubisoft Game on basically any platform of your choice, but we've been reviewing it on next-gen console because that's the platform it was made for. Ubisoft Game is the story of main character, a gruff or sassy white man who is really good at parkour, killing while doing parkour. One of the most iconic features of main character is the way he dresses. Main character's sense of style and flair really comes across in his tailored outfit, which makes him look distinctive and features a number of clear symbols that can be easily used in marketing and merchandising. The game takes place in a big open world with lots of people and maybe even animals living in it. That sounds like it should be a paradise, but it's not. It's not. A bad thing has happened, and the main character is right in the thick of it. Or maybe he's the only one who can stop it. The story of Ubisoft game is a bit uncompelling, but that's okay, because there's just so much to see and do. When the main story starts, it's a bit slow and scripted to begin with, but it's not long before you're out in the open world doing your thing. Ubisoft really knows how to do an open world, and the jungle sections in particular of Ubisoft games are just amazing. Those guys and girls really know how to do jungle. People moving and creating living, breathing ecosystems around you. You can drive cars or possibly horses and run over people too, which is good. This may make guards attack you, which is bad. Key mechanics of Ubisoft game is the control points on the map need to be captured to unlock particular areas. I actually really love like going after bases in Ubisoft games, because it's just like, for me, it's like swinging in Spider-Man. It's just mindless fun to just go and just kill people in the base and unlock that section of the map. But essentially, I want to lead into something that this article eventually talks about, and it has been talked about recently, is that Ubisoft tries not, they say that they try not to make their games political. And we all know that's impossible. Literally, there's
Watch Dogs 2 is maybe the most political video game I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, like Ubisoft has never made a game that wasn't political, but they pretend like they have, and they're stupid because of that. They try to pretend like they're games that are about taking down corrupt systems aren't political, and it's like, bro, they're confusing political with choosing a side in terms of politics. You can make a game political without choosing a side, even though it's hard to. But at the end of the day, these games are indeed political. There's no denying that. But yeah, if you want to read the rest of the article, it's called Ubisoft Game, The Review, Point and Click Bait by Tim Cowell. It's great. It is phenomenal. I'll probably send it to you later. You'll love it. But yeah.
I stand by the fact that the most unique Ubisoft game, though, like the one that's like stands out away from everything else, is still Watch Dogs 2. That's the most unique Ubisoft game, because every other Ubisoft game is just kind of,
like I said, I'm really excited to see one. The locales look great. Again, there's a jungle. The jungle looks good, and it looks fun. It honestly looks like just really a lot of fun. The story doesn't like every Ubisoft game. The story probably isn't going to be the best because they're trying so hard not to be political. It makes
like every Far Cry game. I should put it like that. Like every Far Cry game, because every Far Cry game story is literally the exact same.
Literally the exact same every single time.
Yeah. And like it's literally like, for some reason you get put into an island that has a dictator and you need to kill the dictator and take down that. Yeah. Blood Dragon does it different, and that's why I love Blood Dragon. It's just so ridiculous because it's it's the same way with the 80s.
With like Primal. They make this they always do this DLC that's very different from the main story.
I didn't play Primal.
Primal was interesting. I didn't play it either. I watched people play it.
I never played Primal. I've seen like 5 seconds of gameplay of Primal total. But I swear, I recommend you get Blood Dragon. Blood Dragon, it's so ridiculous and over the top, and it's like an homage to 80s action movies, but set in the future, so like Terminator and stuff. And so the main character's name is Rex Danger or something like that. It's so ridiculously over the top, and you have to take down. I don't remember who you're basically helping scientists take back the world from this horrible I don't even know. I don't remember the story that much, but it was funny because every time you kill something, you make a ridiculous quip, and the weapons are really fun, and the island was really weird. It was, oh my god, Blood Dragon did it differently.
So but
that's the only one.
But yeah, moving on, more Switch Pro news. So our next episode, honestly, we're probably not gonna be able to talk as much about Castlevania as I would like to, because next episode is gonna be the E3 episode. Because within the next couple of weeks, there's gonna be tons of E3 news, a lot, because E3 is happening. So one of the things that are going to be happening at E3, of course, on June 15, 12 p.m., there will be 40 minutes of info focused exclusively on Nintendo Switch software. Most of it, which will be released in 2021, followed by 3 hours of gameplay in the Nintendo Treehouse Live. But a rumor that's been popping up for months now about the Switch Pro, more of it has popped up from Takashi Mochizuki. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but in Debbie Wu at Bloomberg, they're basically saying that maybe before E3, which starts June 12th, Switch might be announcing a Switch Pro, for lack of a official name. And the reason they might be doing that before E3 is to allow publishers to showcase certain games. According to the rumor, the goal is for it to eventually replace the original Switch. Like essentially it'll be phased out and they'll stop producing the original Switch and completely replace that with the Switch Pro. And it'll cost more because it'll be made out of better stuff and it'll be an overall better console. And they're planning on replacing the original Switch with that console.
As long as they don't stop making games for the original Switch, I'll be fine because I literally just got my original Switch.
No, I don't think they'll do that. They said it's said to be releasing around September. If it does get announced. Rumors about that have been around for a while now. I really want a Switch Pro because I don't have a Switch yet. And when I want a Switch that could do 1080p rather than just 720. And that when I plug it into my TV, at least 1440p, would be dope. 1440p at least. Horizon Forbidden West. We're gonna not only talk about Horizon Forbidden West, but we're also gonna talk about our personal reviews of the first game. So Horizon Forbidden West, it looks really pretty. As you would expect from a Sony game, it looks pretty. I wasn't the biggest fan of the first one. So my goal is that this one kind of fixes a lot of problems I had with the first one, which was traversal was boring. Going around the map for me personally was just kind of boring. And unlike games like even Red Dead, which I can find fun in going around a map in, despite its tediousness or whatever, I don't know which word could be used for that. It was still fun to go around that map. And Horizon, it isn't very fun to go around the map. There's tons of fast travel points everywhere, but just fast travel alone doesn't make navigating on a map fun. So I want to go through some pros and cons of Horizon Zero Dawn. You can give some of your pros and cons. I'll give some of my pros and cons. We're going to start with the pros, okay? I have 2 pros specifically. The world is very interesting. And the plot is interesting. But before we get into cons, do you have any other pros before we go to cons?
I talked about this to you a little bit. I like being able to jump. For some reason in video games, it's become a common trend to either give your main character like no jump at all or like the world's tiniest 2-inch hop. Like
when I'm playing Resident Evil 8, I instinctively press X so often and it does nothing. And I'm like, let me jump.
Yeah. And like, I don't like the ability to not jump. In Horizon, you jump high, incredibly high for a human with lots of heavy metal gear on you. And I quite like that because, yes, let me jump. Also, I disagree with you on the traversal a little bit. I actually really like the traversal. I do really like the traversal.
I think the traversal is tedious because unlike a very similar game, Ghost of Tsushima, which I'll be comparing this to Ghost of Tsushima a lot, in that it's an open world action game. This comparison specifically is, even though the climbing system is very similar, in terms of just traveling, to me personally, I don't find it as nice to look at. And I don't think the side missions are fun in Horizon, as fun as they are in Ghost of Tsushima. And there's a bunch of them everywhere. So I'm
not gonna lie, I don't think I've even played a side mission in Horizon.
Exactly. And for me, traversal is like when you're traversing something, you want it to look pretty, which it looks good. Don't get me wrong, it looks good. I just don't look, compared to Ghost, it's nothing. And it just there's nothing interesting to do as you traverse. Like you don't randomly, like in Red Dead 2, somebody will come up with a prisoner and you could release the prisoner and get a reward. Or maybe an animal will attack you, or somebody will come and try to rob you. Like you don't have any interesting encounters. You might run across an animal, but robot, but you find robots everywhere. So it's not that interesting when you come across a robot because robots are literally everywhere. But yeah, jumping's cool.
I just yawned, bro.
It would be cool if that jumping was paired with climbing, which goes into the cons. This game unfortunately came out the same year as Breath of the Wild and Assassin's Creed Origins, which are two very similar games, open world action adventure games, where in both Breath of the Wild and Assassin's Creed Origins, you can climb literally everything. You can climb everything. Anything you see, you can climb in those games. And because this game came out the same year, being able not to climb anything hurts because it makes it seem less in comparison to other games. And in my opinion, it actually does make it less than those other games because there's so much to climb. It looks like it would be fun to climb. There are rock faces everywhere. And in this new game, it doesn't seem like they really fixed that problem.
At the very least, if there's anything I can say, at least it gives you the ability to jump, because in Breath of the Wild, you have a very tiny jump, which is one of the things I noticed.
Rivali's Gale, and you can.
Yeah, but like you don't get that for a good until you beat the second Divine Beast.
I was gonna say it doesn't. I mean, you could just go straight to that if you wanted to.
That is true. I didn't go straight to that. That was the second Divine Beast I took down. So that's like. That for a long time I wasn't able to jump. I was able to like that's all I was able to do, and that's not fun. I don't like that. And then in Origins you can't jump unless you're doing parkour. Like you have no like genuine jump button. You're just like running and leaping, and like for that traversal system works, but like you know what I mean. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah. For me, the gameplay loop in general is just kind of boring because, like you said, the side quests, there really aren't many, and they aren't very interesting. So all you really have to do is just try to like run through the story. And for me, the story falls flat because a lot of the missions tend to be the same every time, and none of the characters are interesting except for maybe Aloy and the black guy that is from like The Wire. Other than those two characters, everybody's boring. I don't like anybody else. The story, like I said, is interesting, and the world, of course, is interesting. Like the story about how the origin of these robots and how they got here, and what they're there for, is super.
Yeah, I didn't get that far.
That's the coolest part of the game. But all of that is isolated. It's really isolated, and all the characters surrounding it suck. Aloy isn't the most interesting character either.
She's not at all.
She's a very cookie cutter basic character. And because of that, I just couldn't really find much enjoyment in the game. I tried to play it a couple days ago because I was like, okay, Forbidden West is coming out this year. Let me give it a try again. Dude, 30 minutes in, I was so tired. I was just like, what is happening? Why is my energy being sucked away from me? Like, you know a game is boring because you will just get tired when you're playing it. That's what happens to me when I play RPGs. And that's what happens to me when I'm playing Horizon. I just get tired because it's so boring. I'm not supposed to be getting tired. I'm supposed to be having fun. Like when I play Resident Evil, I'm having fun. It's great. Yeah, that's all I have for today. You know, because we can't talk about Castlevania, so that's all we got. And we're actually at time limit, so we probably would have went over if we had more. You got anything? Nothing?
I don't think so.
All right then. Well, as usual, John.
I'm Amir.
You can find my weight. You can find my ads below me.
Oh.
And you can find Amir's ad below him, and the ad for the Mustard Cast is social media right below that. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more storytelling content, and then click the notification bell so that you're notified when we post.